Curious as it may seem, these humble packs of acidic candy may hold the key to one of the great unknowns of mankind. A mystery that has beaten the finest minds of 2 centuries. Do you dare enter the autistic zone?
Daisy, I need you to disengage the veracity alarm.
As you wish, Quinn. Warning, veracity sensors are no longer in operation. Please engage your personal veracity system.
In 1985, a small group of prominent academics put their names to a paper asking the question, does the autistic child have a theory of mind? TLDR, their conclusion was no. 40 years on, and you'll find them singing a very different tune. They don't say autistic people lack theory of mind or cognitive empathy anymore. They say autistic people process and experience empathy differently to non-autistic folks, but that's about where it stops for now. Ask them to tell you how we do it differently or why, and they don't have as much to say on the subject. At least, not that would make sense to someone who's autistic themselves. I'm Quinn, and I'm autistic, and today I'm going to have a go at filling that gap myself using those fizzy sweets. So why not grab yourself a cuppa and join me for a delve into the workings of autistic theory of mind. When I first heard about that paper in the late 80s, a few short years after I found out I'm autistic, it dumped me into a bit of an existential crisis. Because I thought I did have a fully functioning theory of mind. In fact, speculating why people said and did the things they did, trying to work out their motivations and thought processes was basically a hobby of mine. I wasn't just a people watcher. I was a people theoriser, and it occupied a lot of my time. So, if autistic people like me really weren't capable of understanding someone else's point of view, I'd basically wasted most of my life to date. So, it was quite a relief when most of those experts climbed down, changed their tune, or suggested that they'd known all along, we'd just misunderstood them.
Thing is, about the autistics with the autism, is that they're enigmas, ain't they? Who knows where they get their ideas?
Well, autistic people do, surely. The thing is, we're not always very good at explaining them to non-autistic people, at least not in a way that makes sense to them. We seem to be pretty good at exchanging ideas and information amongst ourselves, but there's a blockage in getting some of it over to the non-autistic folks who populate our lives. Three packets of Sour Patch Kids jelly sweets. I only discovered these about a year ago, but they've been around for years apparently. They started out in Canada in the 70s as Mars Men, but changed to Sour Patch Kids in the 80s to cash in on the Cabbage Patch Kids craze. Don't see many of those dolls around these days, but these little sweet jellies with a sour, acidic coating are still going strong the world over. There are lots of varieties available around the world, and most of them here now, but after trying them all, it's only the original flavour selection that really floats my boat. So they're the only ones I pop in my grocery order. Until recently, when they launched a blue raspberry flavour in the UK, which I had to try. Ever since I first stained my face turquoise with a blue raspberry slush puppy in 1978, I've loved that artificial, vaguely fruit-like flavour, so it was a no-brainer. Into the online basket they went, along with a pack of the originals to keep them company. Tuesday morning, and I'm unpacking my shopping, only to find 2 packs of the original flavour. There was no stock available of the blue raspberry, so the picker at my grocer's substituted a pack of the original Sour Patch Kids instead. No biggie. I was a little disappointed not to get the new ones to try, but I hadn't really lost out. The supermarket grocery picker had made a good, logical choice from my point of view. 10 out of 10 for customer service in my book. I'd have done the same. Next week, I placed the same order, and the blue raspberries were out of stock again, but instead of a second pack of the original flavour like last time, they were replaced with the fruit selection. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd have them over nothing, but I'd never choose them over the originals, so I sent them back with the delivery driver for a refund. For the next 6 weeks, I ordered the blue raspberry and the originals and got the fruit selection again until eventually the blue raspberries finally arrived. And they were good. So I ordered them again the following week, and all was good for a couple of weeks until last Tuesday when they did it again. The fruit selection. What were they thinking? Why is it so difficult for these pickers? There's a packet of the original flavour on the order already, so I obviously like them. So why not take the easy win? Please the customer, me, by picking something they know I'll accept. Well, that's the question I've spent my whole life trying to answer. Not why I get the wrong fizzy sweets sometimes, but why it is that other people make different choices to me, even when I put myself in their shoes and play through their situation. As I understand it, that's the essence of theory of mind, seeking to understand alternatives. So, let's be the picker for a moment. I'm at the sweetie shelf with 2 different packs of Sour Patch Kids to grab, 1 original flavour and 1 blue raspberry. There's no blue raspberry there. So what do, given that I know nothing at all about the customer on the other end outside of what's in their grocery order? There's only 5 flavours of Sour Patch Kids available on my online grocers. So with 1 down, how many choices were left to the picker? Well, that's where it starts to get interesting. But before I go into that, a quick word from our sponsor. You, as it happens. This is my job these days. This work I do decoding autism and the videos I make about it are the only income I've got, and there's no corporations or research grants behind me to back me up. Without your support, I can't do this. So please do all the usual YouTubey things, like, subscribe, notify, and now hype if you see it there to do. And if you can afford it, a few quid on YouTube thanks, Ko-fi, or a regular donation on Patreon will help keep a roof over my head and my work on autism continuing. So, how many choices are there? 4 perhaps? What do you think, Nyota? I think it depends on how you look at the problem. The picker had to choose for me using their theory of mind about me, and they started with just 2 options, whether to pick a safe duplicate or a risky alternative. Yet, they knew nothing about me to help make that choice. I know that I'd look on the list and pick 2 of the same. From my perspective, that's the right choice, and it's what happened the first time. So why did the rest of them get it wrong? Well, as a picker, I might think that the customer clearly didn't want 2 of the same, or they'd have ordered 2 of the same. Perhaps they specifically want 2 different varieties, in which case I'd better choose one of the others. Faced with that binary choice of same or different, I can't fault the logic of either approach, so on that basis I have to step down off my high horse and accept that it was a 50-50 choice, and I just lost out all but once. Luck of the draw, as they say. But, even then, it's only a binary because we've chosen to see it that way. The picker could have chosen not to substitute at all, in which case I'd have been down 1 bag of sweets, so I guess the odds of me getting the substitution I actually wanted have gone down a bit to 1 in 3. What if, instead of thinking about the type of sweets, they decided to get me something else that was blue raspberry flavoured? Let's see what we find. Well, I think most pickers would know the customer is after sweets rather than vape pods, designer vodka, or horse head collars and lead ropes. Okay, so if we limit our alternatives to sweets, they could have subbed the blue raspberry toffee bonbons, and I still couldn't fault their logic. My best outcome is down to 1 in 4 now. In fact, when I stop to think about it, even more options come to mind. I only got the alternative I wanted the first time, so what if there'd been a change of company policy right after? Or maybe my choice really is the minority viewpoint. I'm autistic, so I'm used to that idea. The more I allow myself to think about it, the more I realise that my initial indignation at the majority of the pickers at my supermarket making dumb or insensitive choices was, well, a bit dumb and insensitive. And that's how I know my theory of mind is in working order. I may feel my nose has been put out of joint, that I've been insulted, or someone has it in for me countless times in a day. But when I stop to think about the various alternatives on offer to whoever it was that wronged me, I can't always say that my choice would always be the easiest or the best solution, once I've worked the problem through anyway. It's just the option I think I would have chosen, just like those grocery pickers probably did. This is how we grow as people. By not only putting ourselves in other people's shoes, but by adapting our worldviews to accommodate what we learn from that. Theory of mind isn't a thing you have or you don't. It's something you develop and learn throughout life. That's what makes it a theory and not a hard and fast rule, because it's open to doubt, and that's where I think we find the crux of our differences between what goes on in mine and most autistic heads, as far as I can tell, and the theory of mind that those 1980s academics said we don't have. Exercising theory of mind, building upon our instincts to develop a comprehensive understanding of the possibilities of human thought and applying it to our interactions with others, is a cumulative process that never stops. So it's a fallacy to treat it as a binary and on or off. If you're capable of critical thinking, then you're also imbued with cognitive empathy, because one doesn't really function without the other. But how much we choose to implement them is another matter. Some people are very good at interpreting others, mirroring them and synchronizing with their needs and states of mind. It's second nature to them and shows in how easily they appear to navigate life. That seemingly effortless charm comes from a combination of born potentials and learned skills that altogether give them a talent that can take them a long way. But people like that are relatively thin on the ground, to be honest, and even they're feeling the strain in the current social climate. That's why you'll rarely find these super empaths at the top of any social or political trees, or out there telling people how clever they are. They know the value of hiding in plain sight and using their influence where it matters, not just because they can. We're only a few thousand years into this experiment we call civilization. Nowhere near enough time or generations for us to have adapted to the changes our species has witnessed and caused. We're working with the same brains as our ancestors on the plains of Africa and the glaciers of Europe. All of us. Our brains haven't had time to catch up with most of the demands of living in close proximity to hundreds of other people and opinions, let alone nations of millions with all the possibilities of knowledge and communication ever known to man available to us in our pockets. Everyone has to survive in the same competitive, transactional, and increasingly combative world too. And without that special social source the super empaths have, the rest of us have to make do with what we've got. The way us autistic folks do it isn't ideal. We're thorough, patient, and self-critical, which can be a good foundation for finding compromises or novel solutions. But it's slow and clunky. It rarely works in real time. We hardly ever feel we have enough information to go on, so we prevaricate and seek more data to make our decisions better before we commit. Then we get left behind, overlooked, and bullied for being stupid, slow, or oppositional. It's true theory of mind in the dictionary sense, but it's woefully impractical in the world we live in now. We're effectively stuck trying to implement an analytical skill meant for a simpler time. This world moves way too fast for us to keep up with all the detective work we need to do to make decisions we can stand by. So, how does everybody else cope with it?
I don't believe it. What are they playing at? I mean, it's not rocket science, is it? Take one look at that list and you can see what I like. So bunging another the same. But they don't think, do they? I know. Pillocks, ain't they? Now this is just taking the... you Adam and Eve it. If I wanted two the same, I'd have ordered both the same, wouldn't I? If they had brains, they'd be dangerous. Yeah, right. Don't know their arses from their elbows. Most people express their initial reaction and leave it at that, because it doesn't really make that much difference. They vent their frustration and get on with their lives. They might make a snap decision to solve the problem even, but they won't spend hours pondering the possible motivations of a minimum wage student picking groceries after hours to finance their degree like I've been doing. They haven't the time. And the people around them know the language and how to respond too, so they save time debating the fairness of it too. Emotions vented, seconded, and world banged to rights. Next! As everyone's world becomes increasingly difficult to keep track of, many of us feel forced to limit the scope of their critical thinking. To be selective about who in their lives is worth spending the time and energy of empathy on, and who they can relegate to stereotypes. Without causing too much harm, of course. At least harm that they know about. Or want to know about. But that's another discussion for another day. For the most part, it's just seen as banter. Shooting the breeze, a release of frustration and on with their day. But for me and my autistic sense of veracity, it's not. That ability to make assumptions and match them to the biases expected of us is a valuable survival skill in a world as complex and fast-moving as this. It saves those who can do it immense time and effort. None of our brains has the capacity to process everything the world throws at us, both accurately and in real time. Not mine, not yours. But we don't always have to. If you can make the shortcut to assumption that I and most neurodivergent people I've spoken to have trouble with, then you'll beat us to the punch almost every time. Autists still have to work out the solution for ourselves, or at least make sense of someone else's approach, or we're none the wiser and just guessing. So, we challenge your assumptions. We ask you how and why you came to them because we want to understand. We don't ask because we disapprove or we have a better way in mind. Well, I mean, we might, but we don't even know that until we know your reasoning. If we can solve the puzzle, then we can better predict future outcomes. And that winds people up. They don't get why we don't make the same assumptions that they do. Often they'll start making assumptions about us there and then, that we're in opposition to them, that we doubt them, or that we're accusing them of something, when all we actually want to do is make sense of something that seems weird to us. From my point of view as a barely educated middle-aged autist who still finds it next to impossible to find my own assumptions mode to speed things up for me, I don't think of it as being a right way and a wrong way of exercising theory of mind. It's circumstantial. The autistic, methodical approach to theory of mind requires us to step back from our biases and our preconceptions to see not only the other side of a story, but potentials and connections way beyond. Yet it's slow, labour-intensive, and often inconclusive. The other way is rapid, decisive, and tactical, better suited to keeping pace in a faster, more competitive world than the autistic variety. But it also has much more potential for misfiring and sometimes causing much bigger problems than it solves. Both are imperfect and inelegant solutions to a problem evolution hasn't caught up with yet, and few of us relies completely on just one method. Even the most single-minded and impossible-to-reach people find time to make excuses for their heroes, so they're willing to exercise their theory of mind for someone. We all have at least a little bit of both in us. It's just the balance that shifts. But we can enjoy the best of both worlds, of benefiting from the careful, studious approach in my nature and the rapid response, get things done way on the other side of the fence by working together. If
A quick fire, think first, ask questions later response is needed, especially when there's high emotions flying around. I am not the best person for the job, because I might spend too long thinking about all the possible permutations until it's too late. But when a considered, balanced, weighing up the pros and cons approach is called for, I'm your man. Of course, I could stand my ground here and say I'm right and everybody else is wrong. I could declare that people who make quick, intuitive decisions are impatient fools who jump in without thinking things through and make lots of mistakes. I wouldn't. But then I'd look a bit arrogant, wouldn't I? I'd also be showing you without any doubt that I didn't really understand theory of mind after all, because I'd be ignoring all the alternatives. When Damien Milton first published his work on double empathy, the autistic world gave a collective sigh of relief, because for the first time someone had eloquently stated what so many of us struggled to, that empathy isn't a monolith. It's a deeply personal perspective and no two people handle it the same way. It's just that when one of us is autistic and the other isn't, it can be harder to bridge the gaps. There are different ways of solving problems, and the more complex the world gets, the more options you want available to you. So having one of those analytical, detailed autistic theories of mind to hand is useful if you want to prosper. But those solutions will count for nothing if they spend too long prevaricating and wondering if they can make them even better. Sometimes you need action. Sometimes you need someone who can just make their mind up and do it, even if they misfire now and again. If you've got both kinds of people on your team, you'll be ready for anything. Who doesn't want to have their cake and eat it, eh? I'll be back with more insights and thoughts about autism in a fortnight. But until then, I'm Quinn, and I'm autistic. Thank you for watching.